Healthcare workers, do you still have to treat an abusive patient? Yes. I think the worst I've seen is on a dementia unit. Former nurse here. Short answer is yes. Hang around an ER waiting room, any ER waiting room for a while. Y'all get your answer yes. Even through the big double doors, voices carry. I work hospital security, yes. At the end of the day, it's not personal and we go home in a few hours. So long as everyone is safe, the patient will continue to get treatment. If there is a serious concern for staff safety, there is what's called an administrative discharge. Essentially, the patient is discharged from the hospital, not because they are medically cleared, but because the risk to staff is great enough to warrant it. Yes. Usually not their fault though. Former LPN here, the short answer is yes. Most of my facilities have allowed us to trade patients if staffing permitted, but generally speaking we have to treat them even if they are being awful. I've had patients with swastika tattoos, I've taken on patients who called my coworkers the N-word white, and I've been called every type of fucking piece of shit bitch cunt in the book. Unfortunately you gotta kinda just ignore it and do your job. You do have a bit more leeway in terms of physical abuse. I worked in LTC and called the cops a few times on patients who would throw stuff and/or hit us. If a patient is being racist, sexist, or otherwise inappropriate, attempts are made to change staff to protect the staff. If a patient is grabbing ladies, you get male caregivers. Of course. Yes. As part of our training we're told how certain behavior aggression isn't something patients can help but feel naturally. Not all of them can be coerced to cooperate by words, but we treat them anyway. That's part of the job. It depends. Typically yes. But not if your health can be critically affected. For example, I had a time when I was pregnant where a patient kept punching me in the stomach due to her anxiety. She was informed she couldn't do that, but her response was essentially, "It's not alive. What's the big deal if you miscarry?" After that, I was allowed to refuse caring for that patient. She did the same to a nurse who just got a major surgery on her stomach, and she used a similar excuse of "it's not my fault if your stitches aren't strong enough." That nurse was also allowed to refuse her care. Unfortunately, yes, which is the reason I left healthcare ultimately. Getting into fist fights at your job and having your supervisor threaten you with arrest for protecting yourself on a daily basis will make you rethink your career. Run a nursing home and occasionally get combative abusive residents. I don't let my staff treat them if they get that way. They get epped out to the ER and I let the hospital deal with them because we aren't allowed to drug them up to calm them down. Once they are at the hospital and treated, I review their clinical paperwork from the hospital with my director of nursing and we make the decision together on whether or not to take the patient back. A lot of times we don't. My staff have a hard enough job as it is taking care of normal patients. I'm not going to endanger them, my residents, or make their jobs harder by allowing a combative abusive patient to stay. Yes, as an adult you have to get over mean words. Yes, my wife and her sisters are all in healthcare. They have to treat abusive patients. Nothing stops them from bitching about them to me after work though. It depends. Unfortunately, most of the time the answer is yes, unless management is willing to change your assignment. It depends on how abusive, where you work, and what they are there for. My wife used to work at an urgent care and she has kicked people out. She now works with babies so they aren't too abusive. Their parents can be, though. Yes. That's pretty much the entirety of psychiatric care. Yes.